Welcome to Cooking with Benson. So you guys are on the pressure canner, which means we're cooking something in the canner. We're actually canning ground beef. I was able to get ground beef pretty cheap, about 30 pounds of it. 20 pounds went into the freezer to be used for like hamburgers and stuff like that. This is going to get canned, jarred, however you want to call it, in the pressure cooker. I have to cook it first, so I've got my cast iron skillet ready to go. I'm going to cook this in small batches, then put it in a clean bowl, put it in the oven while we prep the jars and everything. So let's get started. All right, so the book says you have two options. You can either make patties or balls out of them and cook them and put them in the jars, or you can do the crumble. I chose the crumble because if this is going to get used for anything, it'll be for like hamburger soup or spaghetti or something. Anything where I'm going to make like meatballs or hamburger stuff, I'm going to pull from the frozen stuff. And that's why I'm only doing 10 pounds in jars, because we don't eat a ton of spaghetti, so, or even hamburger soup, so this stuff won't get used as fast, whereas that stuff we eat hamburgers, or I'll make meatballs and stuff. I want that to come out of fresh beef, because this is 80-20 beef, and it's very, very delicious. It's got a very good fat content, and it's got very good flavor. That's why we went and specifically bought this beef when I found out it was on sale. The reason I am cooking the hamburger first is the book A says to cook it first. I've seen people raw pack beef, and you can raw pack cubed beef, but the problem with raw packing beef ground is the amount of fat could possibly be too much for the jar, and you lose your headspace that's required. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a mixture of boiled water and a little bit of the beef fat for when I go to jar this. So, or what I'll do is I'll just put the beef fat aside and seal it up and just have beef tallow for other things. But I'm crumbling mine for that specific reason. And once it's done, like I said, I'll start washing my jars and stuff. So just to give you that heads up, that tidbit of why I'm doing it this way versus the other ways you can do it. All right, so this is kind of my setup. There's my pressure cooker. It's got water in there. It's warming up. It's about 170 right now. Boiling water in the background. Beef here, 2 jars. I'm going to go beef in a jar, hot water, lid them, get them in there. So I'm going to kind of show you how that goes. All right, so I've taken my lids, and I'm going to put some warm water in here with some vinegar, and I'm going to use that to clean my rims of my jars as I go along. I'm also going to put a splash of vinegar into this pot to help my jars to keep from staining, so I got to grab that. All right, so I do need 1 inch of headspace, which is this top part of the tooth here. All right, so it is in quart jars. So quarts go for 90 minutes at 11 pounds. Right now it's rushing off the excess steam that's in there, or the excess air that's in there. That's got to do that for the 10 minutes. And then we'll put the little weight on top and go from there. I did find something that I'm going to share with you. Somebody, I asked in one of the Facebook groups, because I had a terrible time getting this thing to keep pressure at 11 pounds. So there's this thing that comes in 5-pound increments. And what they do is, if you need it 5 pounds, it's just a piece. If you need it 10, it's another piece. And you need 15 pounds, it's another piece. And what people have done is they've weighed the weights that come with it, and then basically cut one of those, they've cut that weight in half and found like a washer or something to put on top of it, and that helps you maintain the weight. And then the dial just becomes like a secondary, whereas you know you're hitting between the 11 and 12 pounds. So, and what it does is, it gets to that weight and it just rocks at that weight, and you just want to get it doing a steady rock, and then you know you're at least hitting that 11 pounds, you know. And if it's rocking too fast, you know you're way above it. So I got those on order. I'm waiting for those to come in, and I'll show you those when I get them. But I'm waiting on the beef to get all the excess out, and then we got green peas to do later. Apples, you know, we did pears recently, so I'm excited to show you guys this stuff. Hope you're learning something. I'm learning something as we go along. So if there's any tips or tricks you got for me, let me know. That's beef done. Ended up 10 pounds made me 6 quarts, 7 quarts. I think it was 6 quarts. Got water in the bottom. There's some beef fat on the top. I did drain this because this was 80-20. So I did drain this before I even added the boiling water to it. There's still beef fat on top. But the test, and you can see like when it was sealing, there is some grease around the rim and stuff, but again, the test, it's beef, ground beef sealed in a can jar, so should be good for up to 18 months. Spaghetti, chili, sloppy joe, tacos, whatever we're in the mood for, it's ready to go. Just add a little seasoning, and then that liquid in there is basically homemade, just straight beef broth, nothing fancy, just beef liquid. I did manage to save, which I got to get this part out, but I saved as much of the beef fat as I could. So I've got all this beef tallow. I'm gonna empty it out of this jar, get this little bit of liquid out of it, and then I'll have just beef fat for any kind of seasoning stuff I need to do. I did some other things over the weekend too, aside from the beef. We did homemade applesauce, sealed. There's no video on these. I was just doing these in between. Apples. Look at I didn't do any absorbic acid that I tell you to do, and I still held a pretty decent, pretty color on these apples. So that I'm happy for. I did can them in a homemade syrup. So got to go through and do this on all these. I did a beautiful cinnamon apple jam, and I'm so happy because it set. I can't get jelly down. Jams, I can knock them out of the park, but a lot of that has to do is I add pectin, and the apples and the fruit have pectin themselves. Something about jellies though, I can't get them to set properly. I will say that on some of these, no, all of these, I didn't have low sugar pectin, and we used Splenda. I had regular pectin that I just used Splenda with. I was like, I'm gonna give it a shot. I have the apples, let's do it. And you can see, beautiful. It held, and I got some big chunks of apples in there, so I'm excited about that. I did corn. Hang on, you guys are on a precarious situation here. Let me get you off the corn jar. Corn, so the ring off of this guy. These are just, they're finished cooling, so I'm doing the videos on them. They've got the rings taken off and tested. So there's corn, the liquid's in there. Not a ton of liquid, it looks like it absorbed a good bit of it. I do have a question, anybody that's a canner, I'm gonna post this on the Facebook group that I'm in as well. These guys right here are green field peas. So I did it, follow the instructions, put all the liquid in there, and it looks like they absorbed almost 50% of the liquid. I mean, I got a seal on them, so they're safe, and I followed the entire process. I was just surprised to see how much liquid they lost, but maybe that's just because it's a bean. But anyways, that's it. That's everything I've done just this weekend. So thought I would share it with you. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you in the kitchen.